Hello and welcome to the Legion's first Apocalypse battle report. Since we had the armies out the other day, the Raven Guard and the Astra Militarum, doing a showcase for the full armies, we thought we may as well let them have a bit of a crack at each other. So we've chosen two 7,000 point armies and we thought we'd have a go at a bit of Apocalypse. Now we're playing a custom scenario today, which I will explain. The Raven Guard, who you see here deployed in the centre, have dropped onto this planet due to irregularities in the behaviour of the governor and have taken these outer lying defence works and are currently laying siege to the remnants of the PDF, who have taken refuge in the outskirts of this city, which has already taken a bit of a pounding, as you can see. Unfortunately for the Ravens, there is an Imperial Guard relief force on its way with a lot of armour and a lot of men, and they are coming up behind the Ravens, who have now swung round to face enemies on both sides. So the table is 16 foot long by 4 foot wide, and we will be playing an objective based game, 6 objectives per turn, because we're playing with 7,000 points. Make it a challenge to seize as many as possible. So over here, down this end in no man's land, we have objective 1, we have objective 3, and objective 2 is all the way over next to that guard banner there. So seize the city when someone draws objective 2. And down this end, between the Raven Guard rear guard and the upcoming wall of armour and bodies, we have objective 6 over there in the middle, objective 4 on this landing pad, and objective 4 over here. So if we take a view from the approaching guard relief column, you can see they've got a lot of ground to cover to relieve their comrades in the city. We haven't rolled for first turn yet, we've deployed blind, so we'll be back as soon as we know who's going first. The Imperial Guard column will not be stalled in its advance. They have seized the first turn and they've been given their orders. They must seize objective 3 all the way up this end, objective 6 over there in the open, and objective 5 in the middle of that landing pad. They must also assassinate one of the Space Marine characters, achieve psychological superiority by making them fail a morale check, and take on and defeat them in close assault. We will see how they get on. Astra Militarum, turn 1. End of Astra Militarum turn 1 movement phase, and it looks like the PDF are happy in their refuge in the ruined city. They are just sighting their weapons and preparing to give fire. And down the other end, looks like the guard advance has ground to a halt. I think they have the same thing in mind. They are going to use their firepower to saturate the Raven Guard lines. Let's see how they get on in their shooting phase. Astra Militarum turn 1 shooting phase, and it's been quite an effective phase for the Astra Militarum, helped out with a lot of these company officers issuing orders that allowed their men to ignore cover, which meant this squad of Raven Guard scouts were gunned down in short order. The big guns spoke, the Russ's battle cannons and the Shadow Sword's volcano cannon, and the Line Breaker squadron has taken a lot of damage. It's lost 2 Vindicators, and the Raven Guard bikers were also caught in the blast and 2 of them fell. The PDF are doing a sterling job putting some firepower out from the edge of this city. They have knocked out 2 of the Raven Guard rhinos, meaning the Marines are going to have to cross this open ground on foot, which is a prospect they are not looking forward to. We'll be back with Imperial Guard objectives achieved on their first turn. Astra Militarum turn 1, and they achieved First blood, the Raven Guard scouts are no more. They also achieved assassinate. The battle cannon shell took out the biker sergeant. They have not achieved any of their secure objectives, and the guard colonel has ordered the PDF to stay in the city and has ordered them to forget about seizing objective 3. So at the end of the Astra Militarum first turn, the score is 2 to the Astra Militarum and none to the Raven Guard. Coming up, some drop pods hopefully. Be back with the Raven Guard turn 1 objectives. Raven Guard objectives at the beginning of their first turn. They have been ordered to secure objective 1. They have been ordered to achieve supremacy over the objectives on the battlefield, which they should be able to achieve. They have to scour the skies, so we'll wait for the Astra Militarum flyers to turn up before we can attempt that one. They have to achieve psychological warfare, so they have to make one of these guard units, of which there are many, fail a morale check, and their commander is obviously in a bloodthirsty mood because he has ordered them to destroy something in hand-to-hand combat and issue some challenges along the way. The Raven Guard drop pods are on their way. We will see where they come down. Raven Guard turn 1. End of Raven Guard turn 1 movement phase, and the tactical squads have had their rhinos knocked out and are therefore proceeding on foot across this no man's land to try and take on the remnants of the PDF. So they're against it down this end. Up this end, there's not been much movement from the Raven Guard line. They're within striking distance of a lot of the objectives, so they're going to wait and see if the Guard advance upon them. The drop pods, on the other hand, have come down very aggressively right in the middle of the Imperial Guard column, disgorging 2 full tactical squads, the 3rd Company Captain and his command squad, and they have their melters trained on the Stormlord super heavy tank. So we will see. They are surrounded, so let's hope they have some success. The tactical doctrine is in effect to help them out. Moving into Raven Guard, turn 1, shooting phase. End of Raven Guard shooting phase on their first turn, and the tactical marines down this end are continuing their advance on the edge of the ruined city, walking into a hail of firepower. Coming down this end, the Raven Guard Devastators gave some fire, killed some guardsmen behind some barricades, but just picking really at the big mass of guard that are still up this end. But this turn, the 3rd Company Captain led his command squad and his 2 tactical squads in this drop pod assault, and with their melters, aided by the tactical doctrine of the Codex Astartes, has destroyed the Stormlord, killing 35 out of the 40 guardsmen that were in its troop compartment, and it flipped over and flaming wreckage took out one of the heavy bolter teams, 2 of the command squad, and some of the guard in the gun pit here. The other combat squads that came out of the drop pods shredded the 2 Imperial Guard command squads with fire, but the veterans have heard the voice of Yarick bellowing from his chimera, and they have stood firm, ready to return fire on the Raven Guard. With no assaults, that is the end of the Raven Guard turn. We'll be back to see what objectives they achieved. At the end of the Raven Guard's first turn, they have achieved securing objective 1. They have achieved supremacy, because along with objective 1, they are holding objective 4, whereas the Guard are still only holding objective 2 back in the ruined city. They also achieved psychological warfare when the guardsmen that were being carried in the Stormlord decided that retreat was the best option for them, having lost 35 out of their squad of 40 and their priest as well. And the Raven Guard also have achieved Slay the Warlord. The tactical squads that spilled out of these drop pods gunned down the colonel commanding this Imperial Guard regiment, making the score at the end of Raven Guard turn 1, 5 points to the Raven Guard and 2 points to the Astra Militarum. Coming up, the Astra Militarum's response in their second turn. Following the death of their colonel, the second in command has decided that it's time for the column to advance and has commanded his guardsmen to secure Objective 4, Objective 5 and Objective 6 twice. He clearly wants the column to push on up the table to relieve the PDF in the city. They're also still under orders to employ psychological warfare against the enemy, and they also want to engage the enemy and destroy them in hand-to-hand combat. Moving on to Astra Militarum, turn 2. Astra Militarum movement phase, turn 2, and following their commander's orders, the column of Armageddon Steel Legion veterans have driven up and seized Objective 6. Meanwhile, in the centre of the column, the Marines that have dropped in and destroyed the Storm Sword have a few problems now. The Guard have surrounded them, the Rough Riders are getting ready to charge in, and there is a lot of Guardsmen pointing their las guns at the captain of the Raven Guard 3rd Company. Things this side have held position to continue giving a punishing fire upon the beleaguered Raven Guard central position. The Planetary Defence Force's lone Vendetta has flown in to their aid with its las cannons trained on some of the Raven Guard armour in the centre of their lines. Meanwhile, the Planetary Defence Force have maintained their positions in the ruined city, making the Marines advance towards them across the open. Coming up, Astra Militarum, turn 2, shooting phase. End of Astra Militarum, shooting phase, turn 2, and it has been very, very effective. The PDF in the city have opened up and scoured this piece of no man's land of tactical Marines. They even forced that lone Marine to fall back, earning a point for psychological warfare. They are firmly holding their city. The Vendetta took a whole point off the back of the Land Raider with its twin-link las cannons, but the Volcano cannon fired from all the way up there off the Shadow Sword and rolled a 1, and that has the 1st Company Captain and the Honour Guard in it. So a disappointing result there for the Astra Militarum. The Leman Russ in the front of the line opened up on these bikes, and they've killed 3 of them, but they have held morale. And the Raven Guard that dropped in to the middle of the Astra Militarum column have been made to pay for it. They have taken huge casualties. The captain's lost his whole command squad to fire from these guardsmen behind the Jersey barricades. This tactical squad has been wiped out by fire from this huge guardsman platoon, and this valley was saturated with plasma and demolisher cannon shells, and the only survivor has had to retreat back towards his commanding officer. At the end of Astra Militarum turn 2, they have caused huge damage on the Raven Guard, and I think they are going to launch some assaults here with their Rough Riders on the beleaguered survivors of the Orbital Assault Force. Let's see, going into Astra Militarum turn 3, assault phase. End of Astra Militarum turn 2, assault phase. And these biking Rough Riders rode down the lone tactical Marine that fell back from this landing pad. And these Rough Riders crashed into that tactical squad. The tactical Marines tried to retreat, but were caught, and due to, and they shall know no fear, they remain locked in combat. So objectives scored by the Astra Militarum during their second turn. They got Blood and Guts, these Rough Riders rode down the Tactical Marine. They got psychological warfare. They got 3 points for that because that squad tried to break. This Tactical Marine that was ridden down, he retreated from the landing pad and all the way down this end of the table. This Tactical Marine retreated as well, bringing the total score, Astra Militarum 8, Raven Guard 5, going into Raven Guard turn 2. Objectives at the start of Raven Guard turn 2. They are still hungry for glory and they want to defeat the enemy in close assault. They still have blood and guts. They also have Assassinate, secure objective 4, which since the start of the battle the Recon Marines have been sitting on, and they also have Witch Hunter. There is an Astropath holed up in the ruined city in the Administratum building, although it's going to be a bit tricky to get to, and a Raven Guard favourite behind enemy lines, which they're going to be in a very good position to achieve strongly. Raven Guard, turn 2, movement phase. End of Raven Guard, turn 2, movement phase. And we finally got some Raven Guard in to the ruined city to see if they can create a bridgehead for their brothers that have suffered so badly under the Imperial Guard fire, slogging across this open ground. The Land Raider Spearhead has likewise turned to try and deal with the remnants of the Planetary Defence Force. The bikes that were holding the defence lines have moved up now to combat the Armageddon Steel Legion, coming in their armoured column at the Raven Guard lines. The Recon Marines are still sitting comfortably on objective 4, holding it, biding their time. But good news for the Raven Guard, and potentially very bad news for the Astra Militarum. The Raven Guard First Company has arrived. Their Shadow Strike kill team has come down with power fists, lightning claws, melter bombs. They've come down right in the centre of the remnants of the guard column, and they are going to try and inflict as much damage as possible. They were guided in by the locator beacons on the drop pods, as was the land speeder, which has deep struck down, and he is ready to spot this huge detachment of guard for the whirlwinds all the way back in the Raven Guard lines. The captain, furious at the death of his command squad and half of his company under the weight of guard fire, has got his eyes fixed on that guard lieutenant. He's going to take his head. At least that's the plan. On to Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 2. End of Raven Guard turn 2 shooting phase, and it's been quite successful for them. The drop pod that came down on the outskirts of the ruined city have destroyed the Leman Russ with their plasma guns. The Leman Russ that has been pounding their mechanised battle brothers trying to come across this open ground. And the other combat squad out of that drop pod has put down some bolter fire on those heavy bolter teams, but they've held morale. They are a brave heavy weapons squad. Moving up, the counter punch following the Armageddon Steel Legion seizing objective 6 has been formidable. The command squad Chimera was taken out by melter guns from the tactical squad, and then the whole command squad was gunned down by the captain and his bikers. The Vindicator put some fire up and has damaged the rest of the supporting column of Steel Legion. The captain, in preparation for taking on this Imperial Guard lieutenant, has took out one of the flamers with a crack grenade. But the story down this end of the table is the deep striking land speeder who spotted the huge guard platoon for the whirlwinds all the way in the centre of the Raven Guard lines, and they killed 30 of the guardsmen one of the Raven Guard objectives is assassinate, and I think that barrage took out 4 sergeants and a priest. So we're more than covered. We've got some pretty tasty assaults coming in here from the Lightning Claw Vanguard veterans over there with their melter bombs, and the Power Fist squad. Let's see how they get on in Raven Guard Turn 2 Assault Phase. End of Raven Guard Turn 2 Assault Phase, and the Shadow Strike kill team have come down and done exactly what they were expected to do. The squad over here took out both the Lehman Russ, Demolisher and the Executioner with their melter bombs. The squad with Lightning Claws charged the barricades from behind and tore the Imperial Guard las cannon teams to shreds. The other combat squad of Lightning Claw Vanguard, they stripped 2 hull points off of this Lehman Russ holding the landing pad, but crucially they've shaken it so they won't have to face its battle cannon in the upcoming turn. And the squad with Power Fists and Storm Shields tore through the Shadow Sword like tissue paper. It exploded, flipped over and damaged this Lehman Russ in front, which is shaken as well. And the captain of the 3rd Company stormed the barricade, bellowing a challenge to the Imperial Guard Lieutenant, who bravely, if foolishly, accepted it. But both him and his last Command Squad Guardsman fell to the captain's relic blade in short order. Raven Guard objectives at the end of their 2nd turn, and it has been an extremely effective turn from them, helped by the timely arrival of the Shadow Strike Kill Team Vanguard veterans. They achieved Hungry for Glory, their captain. They achieved Blood and Guts with 2 Lehman Russes over there, the las cannon teams and the Shadow Sword for 1 point. Assassinate, they achieved 1 point for that despite killing many Imperial Guard characters. They secured objective 4. These Recon Marines have been sat on it the whole game doing a valuable job, and they also got 3 points for behind enemy lines, and they have a lot of Marines in the Imperial Guard columns deployment zone, bringing the score at the end of Raven Guard Turn 2 to 12 points to the Raven Guard, 8 points to the Astra Militarum. Moving on to Astra Militarum Turn 3. Well, there's no 2 ways about it. The Guard certainly are reeling after Raven Guard Turn 2. They have taken a real beating, and their commander has ordered them to consolidate their position and seize what ground they can. So they have to secure objective 2 twice, which they are doing. They have to secure objective 3, and they also have to secure objective 5 in that landing pad, all of which are achievable. They also have to destroy the enemy using overwhelming firepower, and their commander has ordered them to knock out some of the Raven Guard armour. They have to be big game hunters. Moving on to Astra Militarum Turn 3 movement phase. End of Astra Militarum movement phase on their 3rd turn, and the PDF have started moving through the ruined city to deal with the Space Marine drop pod that's come down right in the midst of these ruined buildings. The Imperial Guard air power has turned up, and the veterans have heroically performed a grav shoot insertion with their eyes fixed on objective 3. That truly will be a momentous manoeuvre if they pull it off. Down the far end of the table, the Guard are trying to work out ways to deal with all of the Raven Guard that have dropped into the middle of their column. The Steel Legion are deploying. with one of their squads seizing the objective 5 landing pad in the middle here, and the other squad up there to give fire onto these Raven Guard bikers. This squad have deployed at the orders of Commissar Yarrick out of their immobilised Chimera to try and see if they can deal with these Vanguard veterans that are throughout the Imperial Guard lines. The Guard have a lot of infantry that's falling back through this military outpost. The captain is there making his way through, but the Guard are struggling to find him in these narrow streets and are not closing in as quickly as they should be. Moving on to Astra Militarum shooting phase, turn 2. Astra Militarum shooting phase, turn 3, and it's been very, very effective from the Guardsmen. The tactical squad with plasma guns that destroyed this Lehman Russ battle tank took a lot of fire from the PDF forces hiding in these ruins, but it did take all of them to take them down. So they've absorbed a lot of fire for their brothers there. The squad running across the open, they took a battle cannon shell, and there's only one Marine left. The Rhino proved incredibly resilient, and it took the firing of 2 Vendettas combined to take it out, whereas the Punisher strafed the one remaining tactical Marine there, giving objective 3 to the Guardsmen. The fire was similarly effective down this end. The Grav Bikers were taken out by that Armageddon Steel Legion squad, and that tactical squad only has its sergeant remaining from fire from the special weapons squads, the Chimeras, and the Steel Legion squad that took objective 5. The Vanguard also took a lot of retaliatory fire, and they lost all of their brothers with melter bombs, along with 2 Lightning Claw Marines. The Imperial Guard fire really was very effective at this end of the table. The 3rd Company captain is no more, shot down by that Imperial Guard special weapons team in that tower. They took him out with a melter gun, but he died a hero. The remaining Rough Riders charged into those tactical Marines, lost one of their number, and they remain locked in combat. But all in all, a very, very successful turn for the Imperial Guard. We'll be back with their objectives. That really was a very, very successful turn for the Astra Militarum. They achieved all 6 of their objectives. They secured objective 2 twice. They secured objective 3, which was just an excellent performance from these veterans dropping out of their Vendetta. And they secured objective 5 on that middle landing pad with the Steel Legion. They also achieved overwhelming firepower. They took out a lot of Space Marine units, far more than they needed to secure their D3 points. And they also scored Big Game Hunter by taking out the Rhino, bringing the score at the end of the Astra Militarum's 3rd turn to 14 for the Astra Militarum and 12 for the Raven Guard. Coming up, Raven Guard turn 3. Beginning of Raven Guard turn 3, and their objectives are: they have to seize objective 2 twice. Obviously their commander is not happy that they have not yet overrun the PDF on the edge of this ruined city. They have to recon all objectives on the table, which they've already achieved. They have to destroy the enemy with overwhelming firepower. And they have to seize objective 6 from the Armageddon Steel Legion, who drove up and took it. And they also have to dominate every objective on the table. And on a table this size, that is not an easy task. Let's see how they get on. End of Raven Guard turn 3 movement phase, and the Vanguard veterans are continuing with their mission to destroy the Imperial Guard heavy armour. We have these Power Fist squads moving up to deal with these Russes. The Lightning Claw squad here is going to continue to try and take this Russ out with crack grenades. The Assault squad has arrived from reserve, being guided down by the locator beacon, and they're going to try and flame the remnants of these command squads off this ridge. And the land speeder is going to direct the suppression force to try and suppress the Armageddon Steel Legion. These Vanguard are likewise coming over to deal with more of the Armageddon veterans. As they've been ordered to seize Objective 6, the captain on the bike has decided to lead from the front and charge headlong into the Steel Legion, who have been wiping out some of his biker marines. Finally, the first company captain and his honour guard have deployed from their Land Raider in order to deal with these Imperial Guard veterans that so heroically seized Objective 3 last turn. And in the city itself, we have a slightly larger drop pod coming down. The ironclad dreadnought has got out with his eyes fixed on the command squad holding Objective 2. He won't be able to seize it this turn, but at least he can burn the traitors off it. Another assault squad's come down here, guided in again by a locator beacon, and they're going to try and thin out the ranks of Astra Militarum PDF forces that are still infesting the ruined city edge. And the tactical marines have barged through this wall to try and take out these Russes with their crack grenades. These Russes that have killed so many of their battle brothers in the open on the edge of the city. Moving in to Raven Guard, turn 3, shooting phase. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 3, and the assault squad that landed in the ruined city flamed this squad of guard, killing 4 of them. Unfortunately, they obviously had a defective frag grenade, as one of the marines blew himself to bits as he tried to throw it into the ranks of guardsmen. The ironclad dreadnought flamed the colonel's building, killing all of his command squad and badly wounding the colonel, but he's held morale and he is determined not to give any ground, having held this city for so long. The Land Raiders use their twin-link las cannons to fire up at the PDF Vendetta, forcing it to jink, but knocking off a hull point and shaking it as well. The Devastators put their fire down on the Steel Legion Chimera that was holding Objective 6 and have managed to wreck it. The Recon Marines fired their sniper rifles at the lone melter gun guardsman from the Colonel's squad, but he's ducked behind the barricades and they've been unable to take him out. The Whirlwinds dropped their suppression barrage on the Steel Legion and they have killed them all and knocked out Yarrick. But we all know what Yarrick's like. He'll probably be back on his feet once he's had a rest. The Vindicator fired and managed to immobilise the second Armageddon Steel Legion Chimera. The drop pods combine their Stormbolter fire to take out the last Command Squad las cannon team on this rocky outcrop, and the assault marines that came down in deep strike used their flamers to destroy the platoon command squad behind those barricades. So it's been quite an effective turn of firing from the Raven Guard, and we shall see how they get on in their assault phase. End of Raven Guard assault phase on their third turn, and the tactical squad sent in to knock out this Lehman Russ exterminator with their crack grenades only managed to destroy one of its heavy bolters. So it's still got a good field of fire through the ruins at the Raven Guard that have dropped in. The Honour Guard absolutely butchered the Imperial Guard veterans. The captain and the chapter champion just allowed the rest of the Honour Guard to wade in with their relic blades, and they left no guardsmen alive. Similar story when the captain here led his bikers into the Steel Legion. He challenged the Commissar and cut him down, and the 4 surviving Steel Legion veterans retreated. The Vanguard veterans here slammed into the rear of this squad of Armageddon Steel Legion, driving them from Objective 5 and killing their Commissar. The survivors are running past this bunker on this side. This Leman Russ was finally taken out by the Lightning Claw Vanguards with their crack grenades, and the power fist wielding Vanguard veterans blew these 2 Russes to bits. They tore through them, losing 1 of their own from each of the squads as the Russes detonated. The tactical squad next to this bunker managed to put down both of the biking Rough Riders that they were locked in combat with, and they have run round past these barricades, and the Melter Gunner is still alive, and he is eyeing up the Commissar Leman Russ Exterminator. So all in all, a very successful assault phase from a highly capable close combat army. We'll be back with the objectives achieved by the Raven Guard this turn. So at the end of their 3rd turn, the Raven Guard have achieved recon of all the objectives on the battlefield. They achieved overwhelming firepower, mopping up a few guard squads by the landing pads, and they managed to secure Objective 6, being held by the captain and his retinue of bikers. They failed to achieve domination, and they failed to take Objective 2, which is still being held by the valiant Imperial Guard Colonel down this end. So the score at the end of Raven Guard, turn 3, is 17 points to the Raven Guard, 14 to the Astra Militarum. Coming up, Astra Militarum, turn 4. Astra Militarum objectives at the start of their 4th turn, and their commander has ordered them to take back as much of the battlefield as they can. To that end, they have been ordered to seize objectives 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and also they must have a few sergeants and officers left that are still spoiling for a fight, because they also have hungry for glory. Going in to Astra Militarum, turn 4, movement phase. End of Astra Militarum movement phase in their 4th turn, and they're attempting to carry out the orders they've been given to seize all of these objectives. The 2 Vendettas have dropped down into hover mode, come down to land on Objective 3 and Objective 1. To seize Objective 1, they will have to clear out this tactical squad and their Rhino, and the PDF have come running out of the city in order to help do that with some supporting fire with their las guns. The rest of the guard in the city are trying to deal with all of the Marines that have dropped right into the heart of their defence. There's been a bit of manoeuvring, a bit of target selection, and we'll see how they get on with that. Moving down to where the Steel Legion are really proving themselves to be heroes of the Imperium. The remains of this squad rallied on a double one, inspired by Yarick dragging his battered body to his feet and charging at this assault squad. The other Steel Legion has likewise rallied, and they're getting ready to put some plasma fire down on the Space Marine bikers. The Steel Legion have given the Astra Militarum a very good chance at achieving their objective of securing Objective 5, and Yarrick certainly looks hungry for glory. Right back in the Imperial outpost that the column passed through to reach the battlefield, the Lord Commissar has rallied some of the guardsmen that were falling back, and he's moving forward with his veteran squad. And he has ordered the 2 special weapons squads right at the back of the Imperial Guard line to start moving forward to see if they can take on some of the vanguard still occupying these landing pads. Moving on to Astra Militarum shooting phase, turn 4. End of Astra Militarum shooting on their 4th turn, and the Commissar, Leman Russ Exterminator, gunned down the 2 tactical marines coming at him with their melter gun. The autocannon squad on that landing pad finally took down the eyes and ears of the suppression force. The land speeder has crashed and burned. The las cannon teams, still holding this rocky outcrop, sniped a vanguard veteran, and Yarrick tried to take down one of the assault marines with his bayonet, but failed, so he's going to charge at them with his power claw snapping to see if he can take them out. The Chimeras put some fire onto the bikes without any effect, but the Imperial Guard's special weapons squads holding these barricades took down all of these vanguard on this pad with their plasma guns, allowing the rallied Steel Legion to run up and take Objective 5. Coming down this end of the table, this Rhino absorbed a lot of firepower from the Imperial Guard. The Vendetta, the autocannon teams and the veterans all fired and eventually took it out, allowing the Vendetta to land on Objective 1. In the ruined city, the Leman Russ Exterminator took shots at the ironclad dreadnought without effect, and the other Russes and the other Imperial Guardsmen each took out a couple of tactical marines and a couple of assault marines. The Imperial Guards still have quite a strong presence in the city, but they must be quite worried about the ironclad dreadnought striding through the ruins. So quite an effective turn from the Imperial Guard, and there is one assault, and it's Commissar Yarrick again, and we'll see how he gets on. Astra Militarum turn 4 assault phase coming up. Astra Militarum turn 4 assault phase, and as Commissar Yarrick charged at the assault marines, they lifted their flamers and washed the flames over him, and the hero of Armageddon went down. So unfortunately he did not make it into close assault with them. In terms of objectives that the Astra Militarum have achieved this turn, they managed to seize Objective 1 and Objective 3, and they also managed to seize Objective 5 with the Steel Legion, bringing the score at the end of Astra Militarum turn 4 to 17-17, going into Raven Guard turn 4. Beginning of Raven Guard turn 4, and Chapter Command now has decided that it is time to take the city that was their original objective. The Raven Guard have to secure Objective 2 3 times this turn. They also have to secure Objective 1. They have to secure Objective 5, which is the landing pad in the centre, and they have to achieve domination over the battlefield. And the Raven Guard Chapter Master himself is on his way to oversee the end game. Raven Guard turn 4 movement phase. End of Raven Guard turn 4 movement phase. And in the outskirts of the ruined city, The last couple of assault marines and tactical marines are moving in to try and take these Russes out. The ironclad dreadnought has decided that it is time now to obey the chapter master's orders and seize objective 2. And he's going to flame the PDF commanding officer out of this ruined building as he does so. The 1st Company Command Squad are going to take down this hovering Vendetta and seize objective 3. And just in case they need some support, the Vanguard veterans of the 1st Company have come spilling out of their Land Raider, as have the Terminators come crunching their way into this valley from their Land Raider. In order to dominate this battlefield and seize all the objectives, the High Command of the chapter have arrived. The Raven Guard's Marshal of Sanctity has arrived in his Storm Raven, which has just come on. They've disembarked, and he is going to seize objective 3. Coming up, the Devastators are going to give fire where needed, either up there to knock out the Vendetta or across to clear the landing pad in the centre on objective 5. The Tactical Marines are also ready to give fire to clear the landing pad in preparation for the Chapter Master of the Raven Guard, who's flown in his Storm Raven, and he is going to set down in the centre of the battlefield on the landing pad. The Captain and his bikers have moved round to take on the last of the Armageddon Steel Legion, and the Vanguard veterans have split, and they are going for target elimination now. This squad's got its eyes on the autocannons. The Power Fist squad here wants to take out the las cannon teams, and this squad wants to get stuck in to the guard that are still streaming through this outpost. The assault squad have leapt into that bunker there in order to take on the Commissar Lehman Russ, the last piece of armour that the Imperial Guard have at this end of the field. Coming up, Raven Guard, turn 4, shooting phase. The Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 4, and the Ironclad has come bashing his way through this ruined Administratum building. He's finally burned out the Imperial Guard PDF commander and seized objective 2. The Chaplain, led by example, did the first whole point of damage to the Vendetta with a crack grenade, and it was then finished off by fire from his Storm Raven gunship. The Redeemer used its assault cannon on this squad of Imperial Guard that wisely fell back into the ruins. Down the other end of the table, the valiant member of the Colonel's Command Squad with his melter gun was finally taken out by fire from the Raven Guard drop pods after he once again managed to avoid being taken down by the Raven Guard snipers. The Captain and his bikes gunned down the rest of the Steel Legion veterans, and crucially, the tactical squad swept the landing pad with bolter fire, killing the last of the Steel Legion holding objective 5, allowing the Chapter Master to land in his Storm Raven right in the centre of the battlefield, securing objective 5 along with domination for the Raven Guard. There's still quite a lot of Imperial Guard left on the table, but the Chapter Master has ordered that none are to be left alive, and the Raven Guard are getting ready for some assaults. Moving into Raven Guard assault phase, turn 4. End of Raven Guard turn 4 assault phase, and the Assault Marines and Tactical Marines in the ruined city once again tried to take out the Exterminator with their crack grenades, but only did one more hold point. The first company captain and the honour guard tore the hovering Vendetta to pieces and have consolidated onto objective 3. Coming down to where the Shadow Strike kill team are still jumping around the remnants of the Astra Militarum column. The veterans with lightning claws leapt up onto that landing pad and shredded the autocannon teams that were holding it, and this squad with power fists leapt up onto this outcrop and smashed the las cannon teams to pieces. The other Vanguard veteran squad with power fists leapt into this gun pit and destroyed all of the guard that were advancing through it. And finally, the assault squad leapt onto the commissariat, Lehman Russ, and destroyed it with their crack grenades. So it's been a very effective assault phase from the Raven Guard, although there's not many Raven Guard and not many Astra Militarum left. Let's see if the Raven Guard manage to achieve their objectives in turn 4. So the Raven Guard objectives at the end of their 4th turn, they managed to seize objective 2 3 times. They managed to seize objective 1. They managed to seize objective 3. The chapter master came flying on, landed on the landing pad and seized objective 5. The Rhino is holding objective 6 over there, and as they have been since the start of the battle, the Recon Marines are still holding objective 4, which gives the Raven Guard all of their secure objectives for the turn and also domination, meaning that in their last turn they scored 10 points, bringing the final score to Raven Guard 27, Astra Militarum 17. And we are going to end the game there.